What's up, Titans fans? It's your boy CD back again with another episode of TitanUp 2day. Today's show will be previewing the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee to play our Tennessee Titans in the Week 2 battle division matchup between the number 1 and number 1A in the AFC South to determine who is number 1 at this early stage in the season. But there's no reason to delay. Let's get right down to it. All right, so here's the injury report after Wednesday's practice. Corey Davis, hamstring. Kenny Vaccaro with the illness did not participate in the showing as questionable. Corey Davis looks like they probably gave him just an extra day to let that hamstring heal up a little bit. It was just Monday where he went for 7 catches and 100 yards. He deserves a little bit of a break. Both Vic Beasley and A.J. Brown with knee injuries were limited in practice and are showing questionable for the game. Jadeveon Clowney joins the injury report with a hip injury. He was limited as well and shows questionable. Jamil Douglas, Derek Robertson, and Darrington Evans all were full participants on the injury report only because last week they were out. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, defensive end Josh Allen, the young stud with the calf, did not participate in practice and is showing questionable for the game on Sunday. Along with tight end Tyler Davis with a knee, did not participate, also questionable. Tyler Eifert, the vet, along with DJ Hayden and Brandon Linder, all did not participate in practice on Wednesday, and this is a non-injury and should be no issues. They should be back to practice tomorrow. Now with injuries done, let's preview this Week 2 matchup between us and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I cannot wait for this one. It's a big game early. I look at this, there's an opportunity for us to separate ourselves in the AFC South. I believe that the Colts and the Texans should have been our real true competition in the South to see who's going to win and go into the playoffs and get a good seed to start off the season. The Jaguars got away with one. I thought we got away with one, and we did. We definitely escaped the victory. The Jacksonville Jaguars got away with one. I'll tell you why. Jay-Z once said, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. I'm about to show you why. These numbers are going to tell a totally different story about the Jacksonville Jaguars, how they did the same thing, just in a better fashion. They scored 27 points against the Colts, but it wasn't as pretty as it looked in the stat sheet. But trust me on this. Here it goes. Tennessee Titans, our total offense as a team, we got a couple things that step out and are always good to have. 16 points per game are not one of them. The reason why I say that is 11, my favorite number, by the way. 11 teams who lost in Week 1. 11 NFL teams who lost in Week 1 scored more points than the Tennessee Titans. 16 points, cut it in Week 1, will not cut it moving forward, not especially if we're trying to win the South and do bigger things running forward into the playoffs. Anyways, there was a lot of miscues, some stuff that we could have done better. Definitely could have got a touchdown at the end to seal that deal. We left 10 points on the field by missing field goals and an extra point as well. So there's definitely room for improvement to boost that score. But the positive side is time of possession / the number of plays we ran, especially early in the season. 78 plays right now is second in the league. Only one team above us ran more plays. A defense having to sit on the field and get beat up by Derrick Henry 30-plus times and have to run around chasing wide receivers and tight ends, that is tiring. And if we could do that against the Jaguars team, I think that we're really going to have a really, really good game. 37 penalty yards is tied for 9th in the league. So we were pretty disciplined. It didn't seem like we were disciplined during the game as I was watching, but we got away, and only 37 penalty yards is good. On the other side, Jacksonville's team defense has a lot of accolades, we'll say. 445 yards, total yards given up. That's bad. That's really bad. That's like college numbers. They're 30th right now in total defensive yards. We'll leave it at that. 20 points per game looks good. They're 14th, middle of the road, but a lot of turnovers they got, which we'll get into. The third down percentage on defense was 33.3, so 1 out of every 3 attempts were converted against them, which is tied for 6th. It's pretty good early. Fourth down conversions, again, 33.3, tied for 9th. 80 penalty yards, tied for 26, which is on the bottom side. A lot of penalties. I think it's because they have a very young team, and we'll get into that a little bit later as well. The turnover diff, +2, tied for third. As Mike Vrabel said, the turnover differential is undefeated. It just always seems to win, like Mother Nature. It's just hard to get by. So as long as you're getting more turnovers than you're giving, or taking the ball away more than you're giving it away, you tend to do well. Tied for third, and +2 turnover diff. 2 of those turnovers were both interceptions. So obviously they're run out there ball hawking, which is always a good thing for a young team to be able to sit back and just watch the ball come to them. And whenever you're winning a game and you have Phillip Rivers throwing the ball all over the place, and he played horrible, it's easy to get those interceptions. I think that Ryan Tannehill, although you could argue that he threw probably 2 or 3 interceptions, and one of them got called back for a penalty, another one was an interception. Just very lucky, to say the least, that we came out with 0 turnovers. For our rushing offense, we had 34 rush attempts, which is tied for 6th, 130 yards per game on the ground, which is 14th. 0 touchdowns on the ground with our horse, or even a fullback or a quarterback sneak. We couldn't get in on the ground. We really had a hard time in the red zone, just in general, and scoring touchdowns. No explosive plays on the ground, 0. 20-plus rushes, which I was expecting from Derrick Henry in the third, fourth quarter, to break one off, especially after carrying the ball 30-plus times. You're thinking at one point the defense is going to slip. That defense, that Denver Broncos defense, was tough, and they did not slip up and didn't allow us to sneak away and get a 20-plus yard run at any point in the game. The Jaguars team defense, when it comes down to rushing defense, they had to deal with 20 rush attempts last week. That's it, which was tied for 6th, right? Which is, I mean, it's a decent amount. If you got to, defend 20 rushing attempts, you should be tired out, but they held true. 88 yards per game on the ground, 10th in the league right now. Obviously, we're only talking about 1 week. It's a small sample size, but we have something to work with to start. As we go forward, we'll get a little bit better picture of what this Jacksonville Jaguars team defense looks like, especially against the run. But for this week's purposes, 4 yards per carry is what they gave up last week, which is 18th in the league, right down the middle. No big deal. Our running back, Derrick Henry, the Hammer, he's on pace for a ton of carries. I don't like that. I think at some point we have to bring him down. I'd like to have him around 20 to 25 carries a game, where we can mix in that pass and move the chains without having to run him 31 times. I don't think he can keep up 30 carries a game and go all the way to the Super Bowl. It's just too many carries. He looks like Earl Campbell out there back in the 70s. All right, so right now, 31 carries, obviously a ton. He leads the league in carries, second in the league in yardage with 116 yards, and with a 3.7-yard average. He's in the middle of the pack, actually towards the bottom. Not in the bottom, but towards the bottom. It's not a good average to start. 0 touchdowns, which is last, obviously, at this point in time. The defense, they get to stop him, obviously. So we got Miles Jack. We all know he's been around for a little bit. I want to say he got stiffed on pretty good by Derrick Henry on a 99-yard rush a couple years back. We will not forget that. But last week, he had 11 tackles. 8 of them were solos, which is tied for 7th in the league, and 1 sack. He was all over the place and playing very well. So what if we don't want to run? What if we want to pass? Our passing numbers from last week, 43 attempts, which is 5th. Again, that's 78 plays that we ran as the offense was 2nd. We ran the most with Derrick Henry with 31, and then we have 43 pass attempts which is 5th in the league last week. That's a lot. Our completion percentage is 67.4%, which is 12th, just outside the top 10. 249 yards passing, right down the middle, 16th, but no interceptions. Again, we got lucky a couple times, and we'll be all right moving forward. The Jags pass defense, to stop us, they give up 357 yards. 357 yards against Phillip Rivers, who did not play well at all. That was 30th in the league. Now, this is a team that just won, beat the Colts in an upset. It was a sloppy upset, to say the least. 78.3% completion. 78.3% they gave up. That's a lot. A lot. I'm thinking that this week is a week for us to unleash all of our weapons and just throw the ball. I'd like to see Derrick Henry run the ball maybe 15 times and let Tannehill just air it out and throw the ball all over the field, and let's see. But 78.3%, Tannehill is accurate as most quarterbacks in the league, but he's very accurate at some points. I think that we take advantage of that. 88.7 quarterback rating is 14th that they gave up as well. But it's about average, I guess. It ends up weighing out. All you see is all these numbers that they're giving up, big amounts of yardage amounts that they gave up, high completion percentage. What they got away with is interceptions. That's what they got away with. They got a ton of interceptions, obviously 2 of them. So who's going to be throwing the ball for us? Ryan Tannehill. 97.9 rating is decent. It's right about average right now for week 1. I'd like to see better, but we got work to do. 240 yards, again, average, but he did have 2 touchdowns through the air, which is tied for 8th with 0 interceptions. Corey Davis was number 1 target, and his number 1 receiver, not targeted receiver, but number 1 receiver for week 1. 7 catches, 101 yards, 14.4 yard average, along with 2 explosive plays, which is tied right now for 2nd in the league. Last year, if you recall, the explosive player for us was A.J. Brown. The long 20-plus, 40-yard, that was A.J. Brown. I see Arthur Smith is being real smooth with the game plan right now, mixing everybody in. I hope we keep that up and everyone takes advantage of the targets they get. But right now, Corey Davis, if I haven't said it on every single episode, Corey Davis is our number 1 wide receiver. Corey Davis is going to have an amazing breakout season as long as he stays healthy, as long as he stays healthy, as long as he stays healthy. Anyways, expect a lot from him, especially in this game whenever the Jags pass defense looks to be very much weak. The guys going to be trying to stop us in the pass game, their rusher, Josh Allen, young guy, sophomore year. Last week was kind of quiet. 0 tackles, 2 of them were just assists, no sacks. But he's quick. He's very strong, can get there. He was on injury report. We'll see what happens as we move forward in the week. But if he's healthy, he will be an issue for us, and we'll just have to stop him. And Taylor Lewan, obviously, had to walk off the field last week with a quick knee injury or something. But he's now on the injury report. It seems to be fine. That'll be who he has to work up against this week. Their cornerback rookie, supposed to be Jalen Ramsey, basically their Jalen Ramsey replacement, played a game. The game that I thought Christian Fulton would hopefully have. C.J. Henderson did have as a rookie 5 solo tackles, 1 interception, and 3 pass deflections. Hell of a game for him. The Jags team offense, let's flip it on. They get the ball, let them do what they can. Their offense is a team who just won and beat the Colts, upset the Colts, gave up a ton of yards on defense, high completion percentage. They must have did well on offense, right? Well, let's see. The numbers say they had 241 yards passing, which is 31st in the league. 27 points per game, which is top for 9. It's a lot of points they put up, right? But how they put them up? They ran 47 plays, which is last. We almost doubled that. 47 plays that they ran last. So Tennessee Titans defense will have to stop that. We gave up 14 points, which, again, it was a sloppy game in whole because we barely won, escaped with the victory. But the defense played sound, especially Jeffrey Simmons up front, a fourth down goal line stand. We played really sound. To only give up 14 points was good, solid game. 33.3% 3rd down completion, tied for 6th right now in the league. 4th down, we're right now sitting at 0%. It looks better whenever I put up there 0 and 1. 4th down conversion rate, which is tied for 1st. Still early, but even going back to 2019, we didn't give up many 4th down conversions, and whenever we did, it was, short inches and 1 yard rushes and stuff like that or whatever, which is normal. But whenever it comes down to the goal line, red zone, we're playing well so far. We did have one fumble recovery, which is tied for 3rd. Kevin Byard knocked it out. Jeffrey Simmons jumped on top of it. That was a huge turning point in the game for us and allowed us to kind of shift the momentum and move forward. Now, the Jags rush offense, they had 23 attempts for 24th in the league, 91 yards per game. We only played 1 game, but that puts them at 22nd on running the ball last week with a 4-yard per carry clip, which is right around the middle, tied for 18th in the league. The Titans rush defense, we'll be having to stop the rookie, James Robinson. We gave up 107 yards at 4.1 yards per carry and 26 attempts the Broncos tried to run on us, which was tied for 11. So we stood the test. We stuck tight in the middle, tight on the outside, even though we did lose contain a couple times and we gave up a couple explosive plays that we shouldn't have given up in the run game. But we'll be all right. I think that we can handle this meager run game that they have on the Jacksonville Jaguars, but we still have to play the game. Again, as I mentioned, James Robinson is the running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had 16 carries, 62 yards, and at a 3.9 yard clip. No touchdowns, nothing special at all. But we have a guy who will stop the run. And I know it because the man said so already. He was ejected last week. Rashaan Evans is going to come back. He's going to make up the difference. The stat line, obviously, there's nothing. He barely was in the stat line at all. He had 0 sacks, but he did have 1 tackle in the short time that he was in before he threw in 1 punch. We might want to throw that in there as a stat. Anyways, but he won't be throwing punches. He will just be wrapping up ball carriers all game. Expect Rashaan Evans to have a big game in week 2 against the Jags. Now, their passing game. Gardner Minshew, these guys won the game, right? So he must have just did some great things. We'll see. 150 yards passing. It's almost last. Well, they probably didn't need to pass, but then they didn't run. You saw the numbers just before. Not much offense, not much defense at all from these Jacksonville Jaguars. I still don't know how they found a way to win. I think that the Colts more found a way to lose and the Jags found a way to win. Nonetheless, they got the dub. So their pass offense, they did get 3 touchdowns and now 150 yards that they threw. That ties them right now for 3rd in the league. 2 explosive plays, which is 20th in the pass game, but they did allow 4 sacks. 4 sacks. So that was number 3 basically on the opposite side of the spectrum. So it's tied for 30th. They're supposed to not allow sacks, so they're tied for 30th in the league at this point in time. Our pass defense that is going to have to stop Gardner Minshew, this elite quarterback. But nonetheless, 95 rating is what we gave up last week, which is tied for 16th. 66.7 completion percentage, which is 20th right now in the league. 6.5 yards per attempt, 10th, but we had no interceptions. We did have a close one, a close call, actually 2 close calls, I say, towards the end. The one was like on a Hail Mary where we could have got it, sure. And then Kevin Byard almost had one as well and just missed it. But the interception is coming. I got a feeling it's coming. That being said, we'll have to work with it, work hard for it, because Gardner Minshew is extremely accurate, even though he doesn't throw the ball much and doesn't get many yards per attempt. But he is accurate and very precise, and I'll prove it to you. The man had 142.3 quarterback rating, which is 3rd last week. 173 yards, all he threw, which is 30th, but he threw for 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He was very precise throughout the game. Keelan Cole will be his number 1 wide receiver. He does have DJ Shark. DJ Shark is a good player as well, so we have to watch out for him. Very athletic, quick, and can jump out of the gym is what we say in basketball. But anyways, Keelan Cole, 5 receptions, 47 yards at a 9.4 yard clip and a touchdown, which puts him tied for 8th early right now in the season. But he was the number 1 contributor last week in the passing game. Our job is to stop him. Obviously, we have Jeffrey Simmons up front. He's more of a run stopper. We did put a little bit of pressure on Locke last week, but Jadeveon Clowney, the free agent that we signed, it's time. They give up sacks. They gave up 4 last week. They only threw for 173 yards. They gave up 4 sacks last week. Jadeveon, go get them. Go get them. It's time to unleash the beast. Last week he had 3 tackles. 2 of them were solos, no sacks, but he did hit the quarterback 1 time. I like to see him drag down Gardner Minshew at least 2, maybe 4 times. That's fine. Anyways, Kevin Byard is in the backside. 9 tackles, 8 solo tackles. Tackles by yourself is hard enough, especially without conditioning in Denver, but he did it. 1 forced fumble as well, recovered by Jeffrey Simmons. Huge turnover for us. Special teams, I feel like we just said this. We were 44% in field goals last year for the entire year. The way we start off, 25%. We can do better than that. 25% field goal percentage. We're obviously 1 for 4. It's just bad. There's no other way to put it. It's just really bad. Dead last, and only 1 other team had a blocked field goal. We obviously had one, which counts as a missed field goal for Gostkowski. Only 1 other team, and it was the Bucks. You know who the kicker was? Ryan Suckup, ex-Titans kicker. It's like we can't catch a break. Anyways, 51-point punt average was 5th. Obviously, Brett Kern is our guy, the man, all pro, all those things. Had a game, as always. 47-point net average, third in the league. 2 punts inside the 20, tied for 8th in the league, and a long boot. He did have the elevation to help him out, but 66-yard boot, which tied him for second for the longest punt of the week. Lastly, the Jags special teams, not as eventful. They did make 2 field goals, which is twice as many field goals as we made, which puts them tied for second. They are 100%, which is a lot more accurate than we are. Obviously tied for first, technically at this point in time. 45.3 net average, 5th in punting for net average. Now, let's go ahead and wrap up the preview. I think in whole, we have a great opportunity to jump way out ahead in the AFC South. The Colts are playing the Vikings. The Vikings should handle business and put the Colts down one more notch. The Texans are playing the Ravens. Obviously, the Ravens were a high seed last year in the AFC. They should handle the Texans. It'd be nice. If we handle business against the Jacksonville Jaguars at home in a game we should win, that puts us 1 game ahead of the Jags and 2 games separated from our actual competition in the division, and we can start to really press forward, press on the gas, and separate ourselves from our comp moving forward. And there's no looking back. I see big things coming moving forward for our squad. But let's move on. The defense plays good. The offense plays good. The special teams, the field goal kicker, Gostkowski. I hope that all the cobwebs are out and he can make some kicks and really start to boost his confidence moving forward, and we'll be all right. I like to see us run the ball, but I really want to see the pass. This is the opportunity for us to unleash the arm of Ryan Tannehill, accurately unleash the arm of Ryan Tannehill and pass the ball all across the stadium and just put up numbers. I think this is a big game for us to put up numbers and play some good defense and start getting interceptions. When we put pressure on Gardner Minshew and he has to throw the ball more than he threw last week, and he can't throw for just 150 yards, he has to actually open up and throw. He's going to make some mistakes. They'll allow us to get to the quarterback. The offensive line is not as strong as it was last year. They don't have Leonard Fournette. The rushing game is not there. They got a rookie. We're good. We're in a good spot to really separate ourselves big time. But anyways, tonight, Thursday night football. It's time to pick games. We're not going to go back into last week. We'll go deeper into that on Saturday when we do our game predictions. But for tonight's game, Cleveland at home against Cincinnati. Both of them took losses. They're both 0-1 at this point in time. But Cleveland, somebody's got to be favored to win. They're at home. They're favored to win by 6. The over-under is 43.5 points at this point in time. My prediction, and I did well last week, my prediction is that Cleveland wins this game 27-14. Easy. Look for OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. to have a big game. I'm thinking at least 6, if not more, receptions for a big game. Baker, figure it out. Figure it out. You're supposed to be like the next coming of Brett Favre. I'm not seeing it, but figure it out for your sake. Nonetheless, this wraps up the preview of the Jacksonville Jaguars. It wraps up this week's episode. I cannot wait for tomorrow's episode and beyond. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and seeing this and chatting whenever you guys can, leaving comments. But if you do like this episode or all the other episodes that I put out in the past, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, get yourself a notification for an update for tomorrow's. And before you leave, that one glorious question: why tighten up tomorrow when you could tighten up today?